right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. Keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We'll sample some of them in just a bit. Honorable John Ariko Namoit, Member of Parliament for Turkana South, is still with us. He's joining us from Mombasa. Gabriel Muduma, political commentator, is here with us in studio. Dan Kanokach, advocate of the High Court, is also with us here in studio. Let's talk about politics and taxes. And there's something that the National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah spoke about, hitting out at retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, saying that Kenya Kwanza administration will not be intimidated to ease the push to rein in on individuals accused of tax evasion. So there's two issues here, tax evasion and the meetings that are being done by Azimio. First, let's listen to what Kimani Ichung'wah had to say.
You will not intimidate anybody in this government to dissuade us from pursuing what is just and right for the people of Kenya. Because Kenyans, millions of Kenyans pay taxes. You had no powers under the law to exempt your companies and your families from taxation, but you exempted yourselves to the billions of shillings. That is why our economy is ailing. Therefore, you can't now turn around because you've been told to correct what all your misdeeds and say that there is a lot of noise. If noise is about telling you to pay taxes, please open your ears wider. You will hear much more noise, and many more invoices are coming your way.
Honorable Namoit, is this about tax evasion or electoral injustice? Because both sides of a political divide are reading from extremely different scripts.
Yes, Trevor. The issue of taxation should not be a subject of any political discussion because Kenyans are supposed to pay taxes. Any patriot Kenyan, any patriot person should pay taxes. It is our obligation to pay taxes. My leader of majority, Honorable Ichung'wah, I think he was one of the deep states. He was one of the deep states and is one of the beneficiaries of Uhuru's government. And anything that was done by Uhuru, if it is evading taxes, this Ichung'wah is one among those deep states that evaded taxes. So now that he is on the other side and is in government, he has started poking holes in his friends. So basically, I'm just saying it is politics. But what I want to say is this to Kenyans. Any patriotic Kenyan, any patriotic person should have an obligation and should honor the tax obligation. So Ichung'wah and the team should not bring politics. If they know that some of the companies have not remitted taxes, have not paid taxes, they should take those companies to court, or the licenses of those companies should be withdrawn instead of making noise. Why should Ichung'wah and the team speak a lot, talk a lot, instead of acting to these companies who are evading taxes? All the persons evading taxes must be arraigned in court. That's what I want to say, Trevor.
Okay. And Namoit, there's another issue here of the Estate Duty Act, which exempted the former president, Jomo Kenyatta, and Daniel Moi from paying taxes when they were handing down their inheritance to their generations. And now, Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei wants that part repealed. Should it be repealed?
Of course. If we, in our view, as members of the public, as the leadership, this thing is going against the tenets of taxation. The canons of taxation where everybody is supposed to pay taxes. Nobody should be exempted from paying taxes. So this clause or this law should be repealed immediately.
Okay. Gabriel, what are your thoughts on this? Is this a tax evasion conversation or is it just electoral injustice?
Trevor, first of all, let me agree with Mheshimiwa. On this one, I agree with him 110% that everybody should pay taxes. And when he talks about paying taxes, and the way he's actually put his statements quite truthfully, is that it brings two angles. The first one is, people like the leaders that we have today, obviously before they get into office, and sometimes even in the private sector, you must satisfy the articles of Chapter 6. Key among them is that you must be not only a law-abiding citizen, but somebody who actually pays taxes. So there's that element of the legal aspect. But then what Mheshimiwa is saying, which I again agree with him, is that it is also a moral issue. Any self-respecting Kenyan, any person calling themselves a patriot of this republic must pay taxes. It's our obligation. It is a duty to pay taxes. Whether you look at it, and sometimes I hate putting political lenses on things as, as important as paying taxes, because here, Trevor, and I'm not talking about hurting people who are doing well. And I'm not talking about hurting households that make big incomes. No, I'm talking about everybody paying their fair share. That's it. In fact, that is the bare minimum of us calling ourselves a republic that is progressive, is everybody standing or stepping up to the plate to pay their fair share. You're not talking about overtaxing anybody. You're not even calling it, what you're talking about, the first two families, the Kenyattas and the Mois. Here you're talking about fairness. And remove that aspect of legality in it, and you're left with the human face of understanding that if teacher XYZ, who has a meager income, or that watchman, or that mtu wa biashara ndogo, if they can step up to pay taxes, sometimes they may look at it as punitive. Yet you have people who are resting in billions, evading tax. It is actually becomes a very huge burden for people to comprehend. So here you're talking about just doing your fair share. And I think moving forward, Trevor, this is what we should be calling upon. I remember it was Benjamin Franklin, the American politician, who once said that even though he was talking about the Constitution of the US, that something that was certain was death and taxes. And I think that is a conversation that we need to push here. Yeah. Because taxes, when you're talking about developing our country, two things must suffice. Two things must suffice. If we are talking about meaningful development, all of the development that we see, that is in serious cash trap, requires funding, requires heavy funding, requires a lot of money. And this is where we come to either we do this, we ensure that we have picked up in our production, we have picked up probably in our agriculture, so that we can get money from taxes, that our labor is in the right position for us to be able to increase the tax bracket and collect more taxes. That is one. Which is the best? This is how you develop nations. The other one, Trevor, is what we have seen. We can borrow. It is not the right thing. So either way, we have to develop a country. Yeah. And in these two segments, we either borrow and spend, or we either tax and spend. The latter is usually the best. And by the way, I've seen so many people trying to point fingers at William Ruto's administration when he talks about taxes, that everybody must pay tax. But I went back, I broke some of the tapes that I had, Wakili. It is not very different from what he's doing from what Kibaki did. Seriously. Actually, if you look at the principalities of engagement in the tax regime, it is more or less the same thing. So I think sometimes people get washed with the political side of things, that sometimes you fail to see the bigger picture. But what the William Ruto administration is doing is actually replicating the things that Kibaki got right in matters taxation. And so the bottom line is, I agree with Mheshimiwa and many Kenyans of goodwill who are saying that everybody, Trevor, everybody must pay taxes. And when I talk about taxes, it's just the fair share. People, when you hear, tax evasion, we are being taxed too much, I'm not talking about hurting people. We're not talking about hurting businessmen who are doing well. We're not talking about companies that are, some that have said they are being overtaxed. No, we're talking about fair share of your taxes. And it's in the law. it is very well computed of what people must pay. So I think we need to rise up to being great patriots of this republic, and the law of paying taxes must apply equally.
All right. Okach, both sides are reading from different scripts. Now, Kenya Kwanza is talking about this being a tax evasion scheme, but the Azimio side is saying it's about electoral injustice. Which one is it, or is it just both? They're just taking different approaches?
For me, I think they are taking different approaches, but the cardinal rule is to know that in taxation is actually a legal concept, and it is guided wholesomely by law. To a large extent, the principles of taxation, which guide all nations and which has been there over time, are very important. And those principles are four. One is that there is fairness, there is certainty, there is convenience, and there is efficiency. Out of these, the essence is fairness in terms of what we are talking about. Fairness means it should cut across the board. It should be fair. It does not recognize who you are. So to that extent, everyone must pay taxes in terms of even the principles of taxation. However, we have this law which exempted estates of the two first and second presidents of this country.
Yeah.
But that is still law. So law is law. To a large extent, it was enacted in a proper manner, and it has been law. So we cannot criticize what happened then because that was law. But it means that we can also change that law today if we feel it negates the principles of development, it negates the principles of taxation. What I have in mind is that the essence or the drive to pay taxes is okay. And even for properties or transactions related to the former President Uhuru, that drive is okay. There is no issue about it. The problem is if you politicize that or if you weaponize that. And that's where the problem comes in, because there is a drive that was with Azimio, which raised a lot of issues, economic and even issues in terms of the electoral laws and what happened. But instead of reacting to that, the reaction now is where the former president should also pay taxes. Oh, he's the one funding, so he has money and we want him to pay taxes. You see, they actually now bring it into a political arena, which is wrong. Because now, instead of looking at the very good reasons or very good concept that everyone must pay taxes, some people now look at it that, yes, it is a very good thing, but it's being utilized in the wrong forum, in the wrong dimension. Because now when you react and say, this is how we will get back to you, you are using this good thing in terms of a revenge, which is a very bad thing. This should have been a standalone issue, not politicized, not related to politics, not in answer to any imaginary or real things that people believe former President Uhuru Kenyatta has been doing behind the curtains. So if you look at it from that particular dimension, you'll find that the previous regime weaponized tax collection to a point whereby it was still the same way the criminal justice system was weaponized. It was also weaponized on this end. So if this is the point of departure, it means then we are now weaponizing even this issue of taxes, tax regime, and tax collection, which is not a very good thing, because tomorrow someone will still reuse it now to punish another person. But in terms of the basic principles, everyone should pay taxes, no one should be exempted, but we don't politicize tax issues.
All right, let's shift gears and talk about a bit of security now. And now that we have Honorable John Ariko Namoit, a member of parliament for Turkana South,